Hello and welcome back to Real Estate Hot Topics. Today's topic is tenant or no tenant. Now when I'm talking about tenant or no tenant, I'm talking about when you're considering selling your property. It's a question I get asked a lot by owners when they're looking to sell is should they keep the tenant in there whilst they sell or should they wait till the lease expires and sell the property vacant? Now the answer to this question depends on the property, the tenant and the situation. So when you're coming to sell and you've got a tenant, there's some considerations that need to be made. The first consideration is how much will it cost? Okay, I'm talking about cash flow when I say this. And let's just take, for example, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit, a very common rental in this area. If you were to sell your 2-bedroom unit on the market today, the average time on market for that kind of property is 7 weeks. Now 7 weeks plus another 4 weeks for that property to settle, you're looking at around 11 weeks, let's call it 12 just to be safe, 12 weeks of a vacant property if you're to sell it with no tenant. Now 12 times the $400 a week roughly that you would get for rent, you're looking at about $4,800 in rent, call it $5,000 just to round it up. So $5,000 is how much it will cost you to sell your vacant 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit. So that leads on to our next consideration, which is will you get a better price? So when you're considering will you get a better price without the tenant, you have to consider that money that you're missing out on rent. So you're going to need to get at least an extra $5,000 for the sale. Now how do you get more from having a vacant property? Well, it depends on a few things. It depends on number one, is the tenant in there presenting the property well? Okay, in many situations the tenant has lovely furniture, they're very tidy, and it's okay to sell the property with them in there because it may actually benefit you to have some furniture and have a homely feel going on in your investment unit. The other thing to consider is the tenant cooperative? Not everyone is the same, unfortunately, and although most of the time tenants are quite cooperative and let the agent do their job, sometimes you run into some difficult people who don't let the agent do what they need to do do the inspections, the photos, and make a lot of trouble. And it can be quite difficult for the agent to perform their job for you really well. So those two things are to consider with the tenant. The tidiness and the cooperativeness of them is what is going to get you that extra money. If you have a cooperative tenant that is tidy, there is absolutely no reason for you to have them vacate the property before you sell. The next consideration to make is how long is the tenancy? Now this is really important if you have a property that has a tenant, but it is a property that owner-occupiers are going to be very attracted to. Okay, owner-occupiers, when they're out there in the marketplace looking for a property to buy, they are usually looking to move into the property within the next couple of months. Okay. Most owner-occupier buyers do not want to go out and buy a place and have to wait a long time to be able to move in. They probably have plans of their own. They've got their own tenancy that's ending, or they're living with their parents and they want to get out of there. They're newly married, all sorts of things like that. So owner-occupier buyers do not want a long tenancy. The other thing is first home buyers. They are really big purchasers of investment properties that are under $500,000. Reason why under $500,000 is because if they buy a property under $505,000, then they get 100% stamp duty concession. That means they pay 0 stamp duty on their first home. But the catch is they have to move into the property within 6 months of purchasing it. So if you have a lease that is longer than 6 months, you're going to cancel out any opportunity with first home buyers, and they are big purchases in that lower price range. So it's really important to find out how long is your tenancy that's on the property, and the best time to sell that is within 3 to 4 months towards the end if you are going to sell it with the tenant. The reason why is because it opens it up to all of your different buyer markets. If it's got 3 to 4 months left and an investor buys your property, then they're very happy because there's already a tenant. They have the option to renew that tenant, or they can put their own children in there or own family members. If it is an owner-occupier buying the property, then they can make an offer and be comfortable with the fact that there's only a couple of months to go with the tenancy in place. And many times this owner-occupier buyer will do a longer settlement and just make the property settle just after the lease finishes. So what that means is you're going to have a whole heap of extra buyers looking at your property at the same time, and the more buyers you've got looking for your property, the higher your price goes. So those are all the answers to the questions for tenant or no tenant. If you have a property that's tenanted and you'd like me to swing by and have a look at the property, give you my feedback on how the property is presented and whether or not it's worth selling it with the tenant, more than happy to do that for you. Just message me, give me an email or a call, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for watching.